Big concerns this morning in Florida where a massive sinkhole opened up, draining radioactive water into an underground water source. Our Lindsay Janice is here. And Lindsay, there are many worries now about what this could possibly do to people's tap water. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Paula. The residents near this toxic sinkhole are extremely concerned about their drinking water, and they say the worst part is it was weeks before they found out the problem existed.
Inside this gaping hole in the earth at a Central Florida fertilizer plant, more than 200 million gallons of wastewater laced with radioactive chemicals is seeping into the water table below. This morning, neighbors are outraged and terrified of their drinking water.
First word that comes to your mind when you hear radioactive is cancer.
Hey, I got kids. I don't want them drinking it if it is contaminated.
Famed activist Erin Brockovich joining neighbors in criticizing the company's handling of the leak, including a nearly 3-week delay before the public was notified. On her Facebook page, Brockovich writing, "This is a crime against humanity. This could destroy the groundwater resources in this area forever."
Anytime you have a discharge of the acidic wastewater, it's something to be concerned about.
Mosaic, which operates the plant, says it did notify the state back in August and activated a containment well, telling ABC News, "We went well beyond our regulatory reporting requirements," adding, "There was no announcement because testing shows no contamination outside of the 1,600-acre site."
The water is safe to drink, and it will remain safe to drink. We're assuring that the recovery is capturing all of it.
Mosaic says it is working around the clock to recover the toxic wastewater, but warns the process could take months to complete.
So right now we're on a path to disaster. And just in the last 24 hours, forget about the last year or the last 8 years of Obama. In the last 24 hours, we found out 1 out of every 6 American men is either out of work or incarcerated, Great Depression levels. We found out that GDP is 1.1% for the last quarter, disaster. We found out that factory orders are in disastrous shape. Retail sales are screaming recession. Inventories are screaming recession. We found out that weekly payrolls, meaning your wages each week, are down for the last year. And then we found out that factory production is down for the 12th month in a row. That's the first time that's happened in 100 years where we weren't in a Great Depression.
Well, you're gonna make me start crying here. It doesn't paint a very positive picture, but is there anything about identity politics and gender politics that made you want to title it this?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that white males have gotten the short end of the stick in the last 8 years, and I do believe that there's literally a concerted effort, a purposeful effort to hurt the middle class, which happens to be predominantly white in America, but it hurts plenty of black middle class people, plenty of Hispanic, plenty of Asian middle class people. They're all collateral damage. There's no question there's a plan afoot to make us all dependent on government, to take our money away, to take our jobs away, to hurt us, and to redistribute our income. It's happening,
okay,
and I can see it.
2 police officers are in the hospital. A suspect is dead after shooting in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the Philadelphia police commissioner says a man walked up to an officer last night and shot her as she sat in her car. He ran off. Officers chased him for blocks as he shot 5 other people that he encountered along the way. CNN's Nick Valencia has been following this. And now there's a note that was left behind by the suspect as well.
That's right. It may indicate his motive in all of this. We haven't seen this note, but according to a local affiliate, it expressed displeasure with police officers, probation officers. We know very little about the suspect, but police are confident that this was an ambush in Philadelphia. We know at about 11:30 p.m. last night, this suspect approached a police officer sitting in her car and opened fire, striking her twice, once in the arm, once in the protective vest. No words were exchanged, but I mentioned that police found that note. According to our local affiliate there, on this suspect who is now deceased, the police commissioner in Philadelphia addressed the shooting last night.
Don't know what his ideology is or thinking, so I'm not even going there. But it's just a hatred of police officers.
So there was no mention of religious?
Nothing like that. We have no reason at this point to believe that it's related to any beliefs of a religious nature or anything like that. Just his feelings about police departments and police officers in general and probation officers.
The US and Russia say they want to extend the ceasefire they've brokered in Syria. But the truce looks shaky, undermined by increasing violence and a failure to deliver aid. Moscow says UN Security Council backing looks unlikely because America doesn't want to share documents about the agreement with the body. A closed-door briefing to the council was cancelled on Friday at the last minute. We're ready to extend the ceasefire for another 72 hours, he says. We're expecting from the American side decisive actions aimed at influencing armed groups under its control in order for them to strictly abide by the September the 9th agreement. Otherwise, the situation in Syria can get out of control. The main dispute of the truce so far is over aid for Aleppo. Pro-government forces encircled the rebel zone this month, trapping civilians there with no way to bring in food. The White House said on Friday that it was deeply concerned that the government continues to block the flow of humanitarian help.
However, Russian President Vladimir Putin says the US is more focused on holding on to the rebels' military capacity than abiding by the terms of the truce, casting doubt on Washington's commitment to the deal. We, Russia and the US, agreed that al-Nusra Front should be distanced from the opposition and their location should be disclosed, as well as that of the so-called healthy or moderate forces, he said. What do we see instead? We see no separation of terrorists and healthy forces, but rather attempts by terrorists to regroup and maintain their potential.
The aftermath of another shooting in the West Bank. Israeli forces shot dead a Palestinian who they say stabbed and wounded one of their soldiers. It happened during a security check in Hebron. Military sources say the soldier's been taken to hospital for treatment. There's been no immediate comment from Palestinian officials about Saturday's attack. Observers say this is the second day of a flare-up in an almost year-long wave of attacks. At least 215 Palestinians have died in violent incidents since last October in the West Bank, East Jerusalem and the Gaza Strip. At least 33 Israelis have died, as well as 2 visiting Americans. On Friday, Israeli forces shot dead 3 Arab assailants in separate incidents in East Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank.
Rebels reportedly belonging to a group backed by the U.S. are heard chanting anti-American slogans. The U.S. forces reportedly crossed the Turkish border into Syria as part of an operation to coordinate airstrikes against ISIS. However, it seems they decided to return back to Turkey after Syrian rebels furiously protested against their presence in the area. The rebels were chanting anti-American slogans as well as threatening the troops with violence. Earlier, Washington confirmed it was assisting Turkey in its anti-ISIS operations in the area. The Pentagon has yet to comment on the latest reports.
So, Mr. Avramopoulos, you've been here. There's this big forum on democracy, and one of the main issues challenging democracy is the inability to deal with the refugee crisis. What have you been telling all the people watching, including lots of government types?
Finally, it's not the economic crisis that is putting the European project at stake, but the refugee crisis.
Even more than the economic?
Even more than the economic. And I think that it is the moment all Europeans to decide to make a step forward and implement what we all together had decided in the field of relocation and resettlement. We persist on that. But let me tell you that the flows, fortunately, have subsided during the last 5 months, thanks to the implementation of the EU-Turkey deal that works.
So let's go into that, because everybody is, wants to know, is it really working? Is it not working? Is Turkey playing the good guy, holding up its end of the bargain? You say that it has slowed for 5 months. It is working.
Yes.
So what exactly does that look like? What is Turkey doing?
Comparing it to what we are living here in Greece 1 year ago, where more than 10,000 people were crossing the Aegean Sea, doing this dangerous journey to come to Europe. Now, about 50 to 60 persons, which...
You mean per day, per week?
Per day.
Per day.
At that time. Now, about 50 people. So the situation is quite manageable. But still, there are 60,000 people in Greece. The reception capacities have improved, fortunately, thanks to the support of the European Union, financially, politically, with a lot of experts.
How much are they having to give? the European Union? How much, are they doing to improve the conditions?
We have allocated for Greece approximately €1 billion so far. But the main pressure right now is on Italy, because the flows from Central Africa, the desperate people who come on the shores of Africa, they cross the sea, they arrive in Italy, and more than 120,000 people have died during the last 6 months.
Wow.
But the most of them, they're irregular migrants. From this side, from Greece, they're mainly refugees from Syria. So the situation is better, but we are not there yet. We have some shortcomings and some shortfalls. And as I said at the beginning, all member states must realize, must understand that this is the moment to deliver. Unfortunately, some governments do not show the spirit of solidarity and responsibility as they should do. So we have extended strong messages. They must do it as soon as possible. If they don't do it,
call them out. Who needs to be called out? They need to be publicly shamed and named.
Because I make a distinction between governments and states, because we all talk about member states, but there are governments. Unfortunately, some of their leaders they follow the dangerous road for their democracies of populism and xenophobia.
News 12 New Jersey's Jim Murdoch and Kurt Sieglin, who have the latest developments from that breaking news story in Seaside Park. Kurt, Jim.
Yes, we continue to be broadcasting outside the third story of Carla and Noreen's home here in Seaside Park. That's because for the last hour and a half, police have not let anybody step outside. In fact, they've been blasting on their bullhorns and their speakers for people to get inside, take cover, and this is all after a pipe bomb. We have discovered a pipe bomb exploded inside a garbage can just before 9:30 this morning during the running of the Semper 5 1-mile race right along the boardwalk on Ocean Avenue here in Seaside Park. Kurt, you have a timeline of events so far you've been working on.
Just let's set the scene. We're here at I Street, and the family's been very nice to let us inside their home. We're inside a house because we can't get on Ocean Avenue. The police have blocked that off. The entire race course, 1.5 miles of Ocean Avenue, along with the boardwalk, the beach, surfers, they pulled surfers out of the water, completely evacuated as a precaution. Okay, the timeline of this, okay, as you see more police headed down the street. Again, we're at I Street. The focus of this is D Street. So if you go backwards through the alphabet, we're several blocks north of where this original pipe bomb went off, in a trash can that's right next to the race course. We'll get into the timing of this right now. The race was originally supposed to go at 9 o'clock this morning. It's a 1-mile fun run, okay? The 5K for the Marines was then at 9:30. The turnout, though, was so impressive, they couldn't get everybody registered. So they pushed things back. The fun run, the 1-mile race with the kids and what have you, that went off, say, about 9:15, 15 minutes late. So they go through the course. Their turnaround is a couple blocks north of where this pipe bomb went off. Okay, so they finish. And again, the 5K is supposed to start at 9:30. It's right about 9:30, a couple minutes thereafter, this thing exploded. If the race had started on time, you can very easily make the case these runners, some 1,600 of them, would have been running right past that trash can at the time of the explosion.